It was on December the 12th, 1963, 60 years ago, that Kenya gained its independence after 68 years of British rule. The end of the colonial period, seeing Prince Philip, husband of course to Queen Elizabeth, in Nairobi for the ceremony, and to hear new Prime Minister Jomo Kenyatta urge a continuation of what he called the special relationship that the country had had with Great Britain. Of course, in reality, British rule in Kenya had been far from easy. Throughout the 1950s, amid numerous disputes, the Kenyan Land and Freeman Army, better known as the Mau Mau, began a violent campaign against white settlers. Attacks were vicious, often at night, using basic weaponry like machetes. The British hit back, imposing a state of emergency. Numerous atrocities committed by both sides. Officially, 11,000 Mau Mau rebels were killed in the violence. Unofficially, well, figures much higher. The Kenya Human Rights Commission says 90,000 Kenyans died. Just 32 white settlers were killed. Well, the British still refuse to officially apologise for what happened, although King Charles, on a visit to Kenya ahead of the anniversary, did acknowledge the abhorrent and unjustifiable acts of violence, adding there was no excuse for what happened. Well, today, the Mau Mau are considered the heroes of independence in Kenya, but few remain, anxious that their story will soon fade into oblivion. Well, for France 24, Bastien Renouy, Elodie Coussin and Olivia Bizot revisit Kenyan independence.
This hymn by the Kikuyu ethnic group pays tribute to Mukami Kimati, a Mau Mau fighter and the wife of fellow independence hero Dedan Kimathi. This is Kenya's final farewell to one of their symbols of resistance. It's the first time that a veteran has been honoured with a national funeral. Until 2003, the movement was banned. But today, politicians are showing a growing interest.
With all the honours she deserves, we celebrate this heroine. She joins other heroes, the Mau Mau heroes, and all those who fought together against the colonists to free our country.
The Mau Mau fear that their history will be forgotten. After independence, the national narrative was shaped by those in power. Remaining in the shadows, members of the movement were condemned to poverty.
I'm very saddened because of such a state funeral. They have spent a lot of money, a lot of money. People from all walks of life are here. But when our grandmother was yelling, nobody went there. But right now, they are using this moment for their political mileage. It is very wrong.
Between 1952 and 1960, at least 11,000 fighters were killed. Those who survived were often forced to live on land far away from their pre-colonial homes. This farm in the Rift Valley belongs to the last surviving Mau Mau general and his family.
I bet at their time they still used to feel so much at home, having stayed in the forest for over 8 years, and then ending up in another forested area, which now they are turning into a home, but not a fighting ground. So that feeling has been translated into generations and generations, and we always love this place. In the whole world, this is my point of peace. But to be honest, what should have happened is that they should have been allocated land where they were evacuated before the settlers came in.
Land grabbing is an unresolved issue in Kenya. After the British left, high-ranking Kenyans seized their land. For decades, the Mau Mau were labelled terrorists, making it difficult for them to claim victim status. So Wilson and his family and friends set up an organisation that provides emotional and practical support to veterans. Here, Wilson's father is hosting the group. The association collects the stories of remaining survivors. They pledged an oath of secrecy, so mystery still clouds much of the rebellion. But the general is opening up about detention camps.
We were beaten if we didn't kneel down. If we didn't address the settlers in the right way. No, we couldn't. Now that the war is over, we share our memories with those who are worthy when they come to us, but we're still hesitant.
It's a dark past, which many have had an interest in burying.
Whatever our fathers did was never reported in the right way. So people ended up worshipping the ones who are not the owners of independence. So we feel like we have a duty, especially as Mamo children, to put this on right and be able to tell the world what happened.
Since the ban on the movement was lifted, Mau Mau fighters have become known as independence heroes. However, government support for the group is still patchy. In the centre of Nairobi, few streets are named after them, and even fewer monuments have been built in their honour. This is due to a lack of political will, but also historical records. Only a small part of this National Archives Museum is devoted to the resistance movement.
There's a lot of stuff I didn't know. We weren't taught in school. When you come here, you see everything and you appreciate it. The way they've preserved them so that we can come see them, it's very important. We appreciate it.
One of the bloodiest chapters in Kenya's history has been reduced to this one wall.
It's important. Like a source of knowledge and information for the general public, great awareness. And, patriotism, love for your country. There's so many benefits. Patriotism, love for the country, national identity.
Original copies of the archives can be found in this space, where national treasures are hidden away from the public. But very few documents from this period still exist. In this letter, a British communications officer warned that a photo of a gallows used to execute the Mau Mau had been made public. The colonel's reply was unapologetic.
I only hope no one sees it out here, or I would be blushing with embarrassment.
When they left Kenya, the British tried to bury any proof of their colonial crimes.
These ones came from the former colonial government offices. They were actually left behind by the British, but also took so many of them. And those some were also disposed of through fire and burning. Quite a lot is actually found working in UK. Real information in terms of what was taken. The most sensitive ones are actually with them.
The British declared a state of emergency between 1952 and 1960. That's when the worst abuses were committed. These letters were written by prisoners in 1957, shortly after the Mau Mau leader Dedan Kimathi died in prison.
You saw the dead, dead, their knees, arms broken, and head being slashed, severely bleeding blood and brain from nostrils and from the mouth. Complaints like their treatment, they document, some of those excesses by the authorities at that time.
In 2012, thousands of documents declassified by the UK detail the voluntary destruction of proof. The few historical sites that still exist haven't been preserved. Many Kikuyu heroes were born in this town of Gitunguri, a British target. This is where a labour camp used to be. George Gitau was detained here when he was just 22 years old.
When the state of emergency was declared in 1952, we lived in a place called Band Forest. We were rounded up and sent here. We were given a place to sleep. This land was dug by hand, no machines. It was a landing strip for the settlers' helicopters. I bought equipment to protect the stadium. This football pitch has enabled me to preserve this land so that no one else can get their hands on it.
This steel is the only proof of the site's dark past. For decades, history was covered up, making it hard to know what to preserve. Professor Munene has been fighting to make the Mau Mau movement better known, a struggle which has been made easier since a new generation of Kenyan politicians has come to power.
It's becoming respectable to be called Mau Mau. There was a time in the 1980s and part of the 1990s when you got into trouble by being associated with Mau Mau. And we have a few people like that. So what these people are doing is making Mau Mau respectable again. That does not mean that there will be rectification of the injustice. That one is not going to happen soon.
Many no longer expect financial compensation, but they do want their stories to be remembered. So a number of organizations are taking matters into their own hands. At this meeting, attendees discuss how they could set up a monument where a massacre took place.
Once we've finished the roof, we'll build some fences. Our project will be finished soon. We're going to call it the Githunguri Gallows Memorial Park.
That's where 54 Mau Mau were executed without trial. The monument would serve as a symbol of colonial injustices and a reminder of what fighters had to endure.
Because they have an opportunity, they are interested, so they'll start doing what they can to create that center, which is missing. Implementing it is a challenge. And it says that now the government has been amenable to the idea. The difference is maybe the others do not see the urgency the way these people see.
The monument is being built behind this gate. Professor Munene is visiting the site for the first time.
The gallows are right here. Those who were executed here on this spot where I'm standing fell here. If you didn't die, they'd finish you off with a hammer. That's why we're building the monument here. Those who were shot were then loaded onto a lorry in the early hours of the morning for everyone to see. The settlers showed us the bodies to scare us so that we didn't participate in the rebellion. Yes, for the simple reason that they were Mau Mau, terrorists.
Very few memorial sites like this one exist, despite the number of crimes committed during the state of emergency periods. The number of survivors still alive to tell their stories are dwindling. Brigadier Kiboko was a comrade in arms of the Mau Mau leader Dedan Kimathi. Wilson's organization is paying him a visit.
You know, in those days in the forest, a bicycle could be used to make 4 rifles. Can you imagine making a gun out of a bicycle, shooting someone and killing them? Our memory is worth its weight in gold, but we don't explore it enough. We're going to die, and no one will know what we know.
In most of his 94 years, Kiboko has never stopped fighting for recognition. But he now wants to pass the torch on.
I need to tell you something. There are no sheep without a shepherd. You must guide the Mau Mau to where you think they should go. Seek wisdom from those who are still alive. They will help you.
Thank you.
Back at the farm, Wilson enjoys precious moments with his family. The brigadier's words now carry more weight. He died a few days ago, along with his secrets.
If these stories are not taken from the real Mau Maus, people are going to live with lies, perpetual lies, and the true story will never be known. And there's a very big possibility that with age, the story of Mau Mau will be just a mention in a book here and there. One thing I can say is that for as long as we live, we have a duty. We are the custodians of the next generation. And it's us to keep the fire burning, to make sure that the Mau Mau story will never be forgotten.
His hope is that future generations will take up the baton. But for that to happen, they need to know about their past. The struggle for memory is not only important for Mau Mau descendants, but for Kenya as a whole.
Bastien Renouy, Elodie Coussin and Olivia Bizot, revisiting Kenyan independence for France 24. Well, that's all from this week's edition. Of course, you can catch it and all the previous editions as well on our website. That's at france24.com. All news coming up in just a moment. Thanks for watching.